Turning now to your community focus. As the economy continues to recover from the impacts of the pandemic, we check in twice a month with Matt Weldon, the director of Rhode Island's Department of Labor and Training.
He joins us now via Zoom. Director, thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you very much.
You know, 2 weeks ago right here, you shared a pretty staggering number that about 70% of people receiving benefits right now will likely lose them in September. Curious what your conversations are with other agencies, just trying to make sure we don't have this potentially catastrophic wave of unemployed people without benefits.
Well, of course, we work with our sister agencies throughout government to make sure that we're all connected and we're trying to serve Rhode Island as well. You know, I think that 70% number will come down a little bit because we're going to see some new people come on to unemployment. Unemployment always has new people coming on and older claims exhausting. And so I think that percentage will come down a little, but there's still going to be a great deal of people, probably tens of thousands of Rhode Islanders, that if they're not reconnected to the economy by the beginning of September, will find themselves without benefits. Those are the people I'm trying to get to right now to let them know that the time is now to look for work. That's why we reinstituted the work search. The time is now to get reconnected to the economy. We cannot wait. It's imperative. It happens now.
You mentioned the work search requirement, which was reinstated, I believe, more than a month ago, but correct me if I'm wrong on the timing of that. What are you finding? Are people obeying that newly reinstated requirement? Are people looking actively for work?
Well, and I hope they are, Kim, but it's really been a mixed bag. Yesterday was the deadline for the first round of work search audit responses. And what I mean by that is we send out a communication through email and hard copy mail, and we ask people to provide their work search back to DLT so we can see if they're actually looking for work. And then we have to verify the info. And we're doing it on an audit basis. We're sampling some claims and asking these questions. People responded, but unfortunately only about half of the people responded. Now, that's not dissimilar to what happened at the end of the recession when the federal government introduced a lot of new requirements. At that time, people started to drop off, and they just didn't comply. I hope that's not the case here, and I hope it's just the first week, and people were unsure of what to do. But only about half of the people responded, and so that half that didn't are going to be set up for what's called an adjudication review, where we'll speak to them and ask them what happened. At that point, we'll make a determination if they're eligible to collect for those weeks or not. And it's really a you're denied until you comply situation. So once they can show that they're back in compliance, then they can get back into the system. For the remaining people, about 80% of those responses were great, and we have no problem at all, and they'll continue to collect. The other 20% where it had some issues that we need to talk about, they'll also be adjudicated. So I hope people are taking it seriously. I hope they respond to the email and the mail that they get. They need to know it's a real issue. It's not punitive. We're trying to help them get back to work.
Certainly an important reminder for folks. The latest U.S. jobs report indicates that people are starting to get back to work. Companies are offering perks and hiring bonuses. Those seem to be working. And here in the Ocean State, we've taken some of our own steps by allowing people to earn more and continue to collect partial unemployment benefits. Is that step working as intended?
It is working, and one of the things that I've said a number of times is that I'm an incrementalist. I like to see change, and I like to see week over week growth. And so we've seen, 200, 300, 400 people more every time that we look at the numbers. And so right now, as of today, 2,026 people, unique individuals, have been able to work, earn more money, and keep more of that money because of that law change. It's a direct result of that change. Another 2,369 people have told us that they've earned more than 150% of their benefit rate. So these are people that have effectively returned to work full time. 8,000 people have been able to keep more of their earnings because of those changes we made, which is helping to maximize family income. And 8,278 people have reported that they're working at least part-time. So we are getting people back to work, and our approach was to allow them to get back to work while knowing they had support of the local UI system and that federal benefit, and it's working.
Director, is there something more specific that business sectors could do to try to connect people to jobs other than, say, financial incentives that we're seeing?
Well, I think the one thing that I'd like people to know is they should work with us. DLT provides a job service at no cost. If they go to backtoworkri.com or dlt.ri.gov, we can connect with them directly. There's a portal through Back to Work where we can help them do virtual job fairs. We can assist them with a number of other things, do direct postings, and give them some candidates that may be good fits. It's really about that. Right now, our job is to make sure people need to know that this is a serious time to get back to work. We've done some work to allow them to earn money while they're doing that. Other incentives may come and go. I think they're working a little bit in some states, but the reality is that everybody needs to come together, and we need to provide this service to employers now so they can get the people they need.
Rhode Island DLT Director Matt Weldon, thank you as always for your time today, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Well, thank you very much.